Okay, welcome back to our next video. We are going to continue with our review with the next lesson, 11.4, three-dimensional figures. So this was, I believe, the last lesson that we did before we left for the whole quarantine. So it should be the most fresh in your mind, I hope. It wasn't too difficult like all these other lessons. They're building off of each other. The first lesson was talking about polygons, then triangles, then quadrilaterals, and now we're taking all those things and we are making three-dimensional figures. We're going to look at three-dimensional figures, certain types. So let's take a look at the EQ. It says, how can you identify, describe, and classify three-dimensional figures? And I apologize for all the birds on outside, so they're going crazy. So hopefully it's not too much of a distraction. Let's look at some of the vocab. So right here it says a solid figure has three dimensions: length, width, and height. And we talked about that. Length, width, and height. Length, and then width goes back, and then height. Polyhedrons, that's one of the big things for this lesson. Polyhedrons, such as prisms and pyramids, are three-dimensional figures with faces that are polygons. Okay, little small paragraph, but there's a lot in that, a lot to understand and take in. So not just any three-dimensional figures we're talking about for this lesson. We are talking about more specifically polyhedrons. Okay, prisms and pyramids. Okay, they're three-dimensional with faces, and the faces are the side stuff. Okay, remember we talked about faces being the sides, and then bases, the bottom and top. Just think base, B, bottom, and the top. Okay, but in order for them to be polyhedrons, well, they have to have faces that are polygons. And what's a polygon? Well, it's any shape that has more than three lines. Okay, because it can't have two, because if you have two lines, that, well, even if they connect, well, that's not a polygon. Okay, it has to have at least three, so we would have a triangle, or then a square, then a pentagon, hexagon, heptagon, octagon. Any of those can be the side faces, so like right here, any of those could be the side faces. And those faces help determine the name for the shape. Okay, so let's go a little deeper into that. A prism, okay, prism, we're talking about prisms or pyramids. A prism is a polyhedron that has two congruent polygons as bases. So just like this one, it has two, top and bottom. Okay, top and bottom. There's a difference between the prism and the pyramid. So the prism has two bases along with its lateral faces. Okay, and it's going to show us some examples here. Before we get into that, polyhedrons' lateral faces are polygons that connect with the bases. Okay, so like we made in class, we made the three-dimensional figures, we cut them out, and we taped them together, and we were able to physically see, oh, okay, this has two bases, the faces, the lateral faces, and think lateral, up and down. Okay, the lateral faces are right here. Okay, so these bases are triangles. So we would call this a triangular prism and not a pyramid. Why is it not a pyramid? I'll let you guys think about that for a second. Why is this shape right here a triangular prism and not a triangular pyramid? Okay, so pause it if you need to. I'll give you a second to think about it. And if you said, well, it's a prism because the bases, top and bottom, well, there's two of them. There's two bases. Okay, if there's two bases that are congruent, it makes it a prism. Okay, so if we look down here at these examples, you could see the different highlighted parts of these three-dimensional figures. And are those highlighted parts, are those the bases or are those the lateral faces? And if you said bases, you're correct. That's good, because just think B, base, bottom, the bottom and the top. There's two of them. They are congruent. And in order to classify it and name it, you gotta know what the shape is. So if you look at the base, oh, the base is a rectangle. So it's a rectangle. What is the name? Well, you look at the base to help determine the name of it. So if it's a rectangle and it's got two bases, it's a prism. So we would call that not a rectangle prism, but a rectangular prism. Okay, let's look at this next one. Look at the bases. Oh, there's two of them. Two bases, so it's a prism. What is the shape? Well, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sides. And like we learned in lesson 11.1, if it is a 5-sided shape, it's a pentagon. Okay, so if it's a pentagon and it's got two bases, it's a pectagonal prism. Okay. The tricky thing was remembering the last part of the word, because we know that's a pentagon, we know that's a rectangle, but when we name it, and you can see up here, pentagonal prism, we add that last part, the AL, okay, or rectangle, AR, okay. These next two shapes, we know that they're prisms because of the two bases, top and bottom. Count the sides, that'll tell you the shape. The shape will tell you the name of this three-dimensional figure. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hexagon. So it's a hexagonal prism. Next one, I think this is an octagon. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Octagon, and that makes it an octagonal prism. Okay, moving on. Now, so this whole lesson is talking about identifying and classifying polyhedrons. Well, we talked about prisms. Now we're going to finish it off with talking about pyramids. So to make it a prism, you need two bases, top and bottom. For a pyramid, only one base. Okay, only one base. Kind of like the pyramids in Egypt. Well, they don't have two bases. It's not a top, it's not a bottom and a top. It goes to a point. We know the pyramids as going to a point. Now, the only difference is, well, one base, how many faces, how many lateral faces do we have? Okay, so the number of lateral faces will tell us, well, what the base is. So if we look at this one, we can see that the base is a triangle. Okay, triangle, 3 sides. So we have 3 lateral faces. So the base shape is a triangle. That makes it a triangular pyramid. And in your bags that I packed up for you guys to be picked up, inside there, I have your, I think everybody has their chapter 11 packet. If it's not in there, I assume you took it home. If not, we can work something out, but everybody should already have this completed. If not, we will work something out. Okay, so let's take a look at this next one. Base, well, the base is what appears to be a square. Okay, so that is a square pyramid. Right there, square pyramid. This one right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 sides makes it a pentagon. And then we add the onal, pentagonal pyramid. Okay. And then these ones are non-polyhedrons. Now, stuff is flying off. Now, we're going to figure out why they're not polyhedrons. And what is a polyhedron? Well, it's either a pyramid or a prism with certain bases. What are the bases? Well, they have to be polygons. So this base right here, what shape is that? Well, it's not a polygon, it's a circle. It's not made up of 3 or more lines. It's made up of one round line. It's a circle. So that is a cone. It is not a polyhedron. This one right here, it's got 2 of them, so some people would say, oh, that's a prism. But it's not a prism because the bases are not polygons. If you look at the bases, they are circles, which makes it a cylinder. And then this one right here, this one has no bases at all. So it's definitely not a prism or a pyramid. So that one right there is a sphere. We all know that's a sphere, like a ball. Okay, so yeah, those are just some, that's another way to reinforce what polyhedrons are. Okay, you know that they have either one or two bases. Okay, those tell you if it's a prism or a pyramid. And then the shape tells you, well, what kind? How do I classify this prism or pyramid? Okay, so if we take a look right here, now this is the tricky part because this one is laying on its side. So some people might say, oh, well, since this is on the bottom, that must be the base. Well, not necessarily, because if you take this and if you flip the shape and stand it up, well, now what's on the bottom and top? Those right there. So those shapes are what? And if you said it's a triangle, good, it's a triangle. And is it a prism, a pyramid? And for this, these numbers right here, it's just asking if it's a prism, pyramid, cone, cylinder, or sphere. But we can go even deeper. We know that this is a triangle for the bases, two bases, making it a prism. So it's a triangular prism. Right here, we know that's a sphere, non-polyhedron. So that one, I don't know why they include it so much, because that's kind of taken away from the whole lesson. I guess it could reinforce that that is not a polyhedron because there is no base or bases, and it's not a polygon as a base. Okay, this one, number 3. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sides. It makes it a hexagonal something. And we know that there's only one base, so it makes it a pyramid. So a hexagonal pyramid. Okay. For numbers 4, 5, and 6, I want you guys to try them on your own. Even if you don't have the packet with you, take a scratch piece of paper and write 4, number 5, number 6, and give it your best shot. Tell me what you think. Pause the video if you need to, and then we'll jump into it. Okay, and so let's take a look at number 4. Number 4, first things you should look at. Okay, let's look at the bases. 1, 2 bases. Now I know that it is a prism. What shape is those? Or is the base? Are those bases? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sides. That makes it a pentagon. Pentagonal prism. Number 4, pentagonal prism. Number 5, how many bases? 1 base. 1 base makes it a pyramid. What is the shape of that base? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 sides again, kind of like that one, except this one is a pentagonal pyramid. Goes to a point. And right here, cylinder, we know that is not a polyhedron. That's a non-polyhedron. So don't worry about number 6. And for these next ones, let's just go over number 7. Now would be a good time, because that's pretty much it for this lesson. But I don't want to do it all. I want to give you guys the opportunity to try a couple on your own. So let's look at number 7. Number 7, well, what are the bases? Well, they're rectangles. Rectangles. And we know we have 2 bases. Okay, so that makes it a rectangular prism. Okay? Of course, it wouldn't be me if these were popping up. Okay, so go ahead and pause the video, number them out. You don't have to draw the picture, just number it out, and try to classify them the best you can. Look for the number of bases. If it's 1 base, it's a pyramid. If it's 2 bases, it's a prism. Then look at the base. How many sides are there? What kind of polygon is it? If it's not a polygon, then you know it's a non-polyhedron, and it's something else. For instance, number 8, well, we know that's a non-polyhedron. We know that's a cylinder because of the bases. Okay, so to wrap up this video, REQ was how can you identify, describe, and classify 3-dimensional figures. For these 3-dimensional figures, we were talking about polyhedrons. Okay, prism or pyramid. It's a prism, 2 spaces. It's a pyramid, 1 base. Okay, the bases tell us how many lateral faces we're going to have on our shape. Okay. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Leave them in the comment them down below. Other than that,